And this is a page that I enjoyed making, sort of a comic.
Y'all really like the Rurito Fasti.
It's so easy to get going with it,
You
but I
can-
really can't.
I mean, the fact that you can keep this thing in your pocket and you can do both this and that.
Wow.
And that.
Why would I not like it?
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Stationary Test Drive. This episode is a bit different. Over the last 12 weeks or so, we've shown you all of these various ones, and today we're just going to have a casual run through of them again, showing the work we did, some of the work we've done previously with these implements, and we hope you have a good time. And we're drinking Sula Vineyards 2021 Zinfandel because what good is stationery without inebriation and the inability to run heavy machinery? I'm Vishal,
This is Minjal.
I'm Samir.
and before we go, cheers to you and
Cheers.
to stationery. So, usually here we talk about stuff we've been doing, but I think for a change, let's just say that for the past few months, we have been making stationary test drive. We've been making this show, each of us in different capacities. I'm sort of the person handling the post production, setting things up, the making sure things are, framed properly, which I hope they are, because this is how we do our framing. In case you want to know that. Samir, tell us about your involvement in stationary test drive.
My involvement is in a. What do we call it?
You're our, I will say that you're our sort of resident historical expert. You find out the things that make the stories of these pieces, these tools. Many times they're fascinating stories. If you've seen all our episodes, you will know some of those stories. And if you haven't and you have a yen for history, please do that, because we go into all sorts of fascinating things. Like this pencil was possibly used in wartime, not this particular pencil itself. That would be quite a stretch, but and who knew that this oil pastel had its origins because someone wrote an essay once over 100 years ago calling for reform in schools. So yes, stories like that are what Samir and Minjal dig up. Minjal, you've seen her work if you've seen the show in calligraphy, and so she's the other half of the Inky Memo brand as a whole. Minjal, tell us about Stationary Test Drive and what your just your impressions of it. In fact,
Well, I am mostly a lettering artist, so these 12 episodes have been very interesting in that I haven't used most of these possibly since school. Some of them I've never used. So just trying these out, has kind of also made me realize some of the issues that potential newbies could face, and it's been fun trying these out.
so other than the history of what we got to bring to it, how we started this show was really it. As we record this, it's literally the late in 2021. So we've been in the COVID-19 pandemic for the better part of 2 years, and as people lucky enough to basically be at home for 2 years, um, we
And
watched
being able to work from home.
and being able to work from home for 2 years, we have really watched a lot of YouTube, which is where you're seeing this probably. Maybe in the future you're seeing it on some 3D holographic projection where you can reach out and touch the things and drink the wine, and in which case I envy you. But yeah, we watched a lot of YouTube. We watched a lot of people talking about tools, talking about stationary tools and art related things. And it's not like we noticed a gap in the market immediately, but we did realize that most people or sitting down with one of these pens and a really up close macro lens camera, and usually one of those nice cutting board cutting mats with the grid lines, and then spending maybe sometimes a half an hour just making marks on the page, which is very useful, I must say.
We just wanted to take a different, more casual, more conversational direction with it, and I think that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, that is the basic thesis and premise of Stationary Test Drive, which is why it's called Stationary Test Drive. I don't know, do any of us know how to actually drive a car?
Well, I did for a couple of years and then stopped because of Mumbai traffic.
Okay, but I think this you much prefer these test drives too.
Yes, any day.
And speaking of test drives, we started off pretty much in order here. So one of the other things we said we'd do is just put out work with each of these tools. Some of them are tools made for writing, some of them are made for art, and some of them are just completely different things. So we said let's actually use them, and this was our first episode. It was on the Pilot Parallel Pen, which is this wonderful thing with a big flat nib, two pieces of metal stuck together. And yeah, we did all of this with it.
We'll be linking to the original videos in the description and in cards during the video so that you can go back and see the more detailed version of this. But this is just a quick run through of our last 12 episodes.
And what we wanted to show on this episode in particular is not just the roundup of what we have done, but other things we have done. Now, Minjal, you've done, I think you have used the parallel pen the most. So show us more of your stuff. Okay, so this is a Christmas tree. This is, if you follow Minjal on social media, which you should. These are
tattoo designs.
Oh, okay. So did someone get these designs yet, or are they still in the?
No, I'm hoping somebody will maybe watch this video and come to
Yes,
me.
please. If you would like these wonderful calligraphic tattoos, please approach Minjal.
Yeah, and I've also been practicing italic. Script.
Right, and so this you did, I think, since the episode was shot.
That's right.
Wow. So these are much more like fluid, but also controlled compared to these. These are more artistic. These are a very different.
I actually love the place where it kind of fades off the ink.
Yeah, we'll try to get a close up of some of these. I do like it when because having these nice graphic shapes are great, but having this sort of thing is very interesting.
Very.
It's organic
about that.
Yeah, it's organic, and I like that. I like it even when it does maybe a full thing, but it's still a bit. The ink hasn't quite come through. Tell us about this paper, though. This is a specific thing for calligraphers.
This is again the Rhodia pad that I've spoken about.
And these lines, do you add them in, or do you get?
No. These have. There is a certain angle that you have to use for drawing the lines and for writing when you're doing the italic script. So there is a bit of guideline involved in this.
Okay. So I think let's just keep these. We'll just pile these any which way. The next thing we did was the Reynolds Red Pen. I think as usual I did a. Are we keeping these aside, or are we making a big pile?
I think we can keep them.
I think we'll keep. Yeah, there's at least 12 things for each of us, so it's going to be a bit of a mess. Otherwise, we'll put them all on here later on. Yeah, this was the red pen. This was the classic Reynolds thing that your school teachers probably use. Samir and I had used these before, so we have got some of our sketchbooks with us where we have used these. This is one that I have called Perfection is the Enemy. This one is actually a lot of. I think this might be from the gel pen that we did later in the year. But yeah, this is done with the Reynolds 045. I've really enjoyed using it, and I've enjoyed using it on this very thin paper. It's very insubstantial, but it takes to a pen really well. We'll come back to this book because there's other things we did. This one's also with the red pen. More successful this time. Once you sort of start to learn these things and the variation you can get, the amount of value range you can get, as you go along. And I think that's it. Oh yes, the my one of my favorite pieces from the last year, something I spent a lot of time on, and really shows the power I think of ball pens, is this, which is all the red you see is Reynolds red pen, and all of that is a Reynolds blue pen. So it's the perfect example. I don't have a blue pen with me, but yeah, this is on very, very thin paper. So I'd suggest getting something smooth and thick if you want something that's a bit more archival. But even as long as it's something that can take it, this is one of my favorite mediums of drawing now. And I did not really have much experience in it. In fact, I kind of start these sketchbooks on themes where I think, okay, I'll just use cheap pens or pencils and come up with stuff, and that is one of my favorite pieces I've done this year.
That's great.
Yeah, I think talking of cheap stationery, a lot of us, and I personally, sometimes tend to think that the more expensive a stationery object is, the more, finished and better my output is going to be. But really, this series so far has also been an eye-opener in that, these pens cost like $6,
In India.
And you can really produce like such a wide variety, and really it's been great using the Reynolds.
Yeah, have you, Samir, do you have any more ball pen work that you've done? You have done plenty of ball pen work in the past. I don't know if you have...
Plenty of ball pen work, but not with the Reynolds and not with the Reynolds Red for sure.
Okay. But we'll see more of those, and maybe we'll link to them, or I'll put them in the videos we've liked doing so far. After that, it was another revelation, another great thing. The Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencils. We use the 4B and the 6B. Once again, calligraphy, illustration, and more formal illustration, cartooning, all of that. A great range to this pencil. Somehow I always was shy about using pencils like these because they were very... I thought that, they're a bit intimidating when you see that whole set and you think, okay, I need to learn all of these. But I think the thing that I enjoyed just using the 4B and 6B for various purposes in the same thing. What about you guys? Did you find these pencils different from, any of the pencils that you've used before?
Definitely much more smoother. And I don't really end up using a lot of pencils for finished work. So making like a finished piece with a pencil was also a good experiment.
And Samir, you have done work with these specific pencils before.
I was introduced to these pencils maybe a month or two before we actually started this series, and I did a series of portraits. I'm just going to show one here, but I was lovely. Extremely impressed with how much of a range they can produce. And I blame the model to some extent, of course.
Yeah, if you were waiting for some hashtag face reveal for our
this
channel,
this is as close as we're going to get.
Yeah, look, that's Samir's chest right there, right? The rest of it is not. So these might be my hands. We can't confirm yet, But yeah, this was great. I know this is going to be a recurring thing. I don't think we tried many things that we did not like, and whatever we did try, we found interesting and novel uses for us, certainly. Maybe they're old hat to people who use these all the time.
I think the realization that comes through with this series mostly is that yes, there are pieces of stationery which are maybe of a more professional level. There are some which are kind of throwaway and cheap, but as long as you can adjust what you do with them, you can get good results from pretty much anything.
If you're an enthusiast for stationery, I would say when you're trying something new like this, and this was, yes, I've used pencils before, but these are a new-ish type of pencil for me to use. Lean into what you like doing. If you like doing portraits, if you like doing calligraphy, if you like doing cartooning, lean into that and see what you can get with that medium in your sort of specialized interest of choice. So that was the Mars pencil. I think this is the only time I'm going to get to do this outside social media. So I want to show you three things, which was our next three episodes actually, and I think these are all on the frame right now. So our next three episodes were the Natraj checking pencil, the Unipin fine liner, and the Tombow Fudenosuke pens. And as you can see, these are basically the same illustration, and it's further to what I was saying. Lean into what you're good at or what you like doing. I like cartooning. I like coming up with new characters and creatures and things like that. So what I did for this was I started here with the pencils. So this is, in some ways, this is the original drawing. And then I got a light box, which I know is cheating and anathema, and you can crucify me on your own time. But I used the light box to then do a version in the fine liner, and then I used the same. I think I used the pencils, not the pens, and the same light box to do this on the Fude pen. So why don't you guys show me your three things, because they're different, but they're not. You didn't follow the same.
Oh, you mean all the three?
Yeah, why not? Let's just we'll mix things up here. Okay. So
That's
Samir's was a.
And the next one is.
You can show yours. You don't need to keep them in as neat as all that. This is your fine liner, and this is your Fude pen.
And that is my fine liner piece. And that is the Fude.
Right. Everything is quite different. Even if you consider the things that we did, that I did, that were basically the same three drawings, the same drawing rather, three times. We all use fine liners a lot. I've used the Fude pen decently. I'd say about like a handful of times. I've used it to sign a book or put a sketch in a book. It's great to have on the road. What about you guys? What did you use these pens for anything else? I know that these were new pens to you, Minju.
Actually, I use them a lot for modern lettering or brush lettering that I've learned last year.
Okay.
And they're actually a very, very handy set of pen, like you said, to keep with you.
I don't think that you can. There is overlap between them, which is why I could do three things that were the same. But I don't think you really have a. As in, you can have each of them, and they're quite. Quite distinct in what you can do with them while still having the same. Samir, you have more things that you've done with the Fude, or no? Is that the?
Coincidentally, on Inky Memo itself, I think this was probably 2 years ago. We'd done a series for Inktober, which used a set of hands holding origami, which you can see on the Inky Memo.
Yeah, and we'll put an insert shot of those.
So this set of hands was done with the fine liner, and these were done with the Fude.
Wow! So coincidentally, both are pens that were featured here, both in the same set, and yet they all fit well with the origami, of course, but also as a set together. You don't feel. I almost thought that was the Fude, for instance. Just the way that you picked out the line, the hatching there. That is, of course, the Fude because of the grey.
Because of the grey, yeah.
But I think this is the range you get out of both of these. You could tell me that these were both the same pen, and other than the marker, very heavy marker bits, I would not be able to tell. So yeah, let's put those away. Quite a range. Benjal, did you have any other experiments with these, or did you try any more of this? By the way, you talked about trying to use it for other things.
No, it still remains one of my most challenging objects tested so far.
Okay. Now I think after that, yes, we came to a run of things where we weren't all sunny and happy with how things turned out. And that was. Did we start with the... Yes, we did. I think we started with the carpenter's pencil.
Moving on to Vishal's general 4B.
Okay. So this was with the carpenter's pencil. These were really strange, flat, wedge-shaped things.
And we used very different ones. Vishal and me used the same one. You can make out the much lighter tone. We used
The General's 4B.
the general.
The general sketching pencil
And
531.
Minjal had this much darker tone one, which is the Kohinoor.
which we
sketching pencil.
actually discovered is much darker than the other one. You wouldn't think there was just 2 stops of difference between them. And the thing is, in our episode you will see this, but I think I enjoyed using the 6B a lot better later on during the actual episode to make something like that.
This actually, if you all want to try, any broad, nibbed calligraphy or broad edged calligraphy, would really be a great, practice.
Practice tool.
Yeah, practice tool.
Yeah, because it is quite forgiving. It's just like look at that. That's
The difference.
weeks later, and I can still I'm still not over it. But yeah, this one, I think this one we might need to do
A follow-up at some
a
point.
retest, a stationary test drive.
Because this was just too much of an unknown when we started. And
I would love to see what we do with this in a year or however long. But yeah, I think the results are promising. Let us know if you have used these for anything. Around the same time, you will have noticed that these are not pens or pencils. That's masking tape, and we tried and sort of not quite succeeded, but like managed to make some art with them. I don't know if that's I still think Minjal was the most successful here in terms of making something that isn't going to.
something that genuinely feels like it required the masking tape to be done.
No, also because I used paper that was very different from the paper
Yeah.
that you all used.
This is one of those things which I would like to get some redemption on, but I've just you get a bit afraid of doing these things and thinking it's just bad or it's not for me. But masking tape has such a wide variety of uses for art, not just for masking, but I think we should try out. I'd love to try out just drawing on the thing. It has a surface. It's sort of like paper. Actually, it's parchment in some form. So maybe we should come back to that at some point. Maybe on a future roundup, we'll actually show you things that we've missed or things that we've gone and redone with even things like this. Yeah, masking tape.
We can have a future, the ones that got away.
The ones that got away. Yes, tell us which ones you'd like to see more of. And that brings us to one of our favorites. Something that I've done a lot of work with, which is these really cheap Hauser INX. What's the full name, Minjal? We went over this in our episode.
Okay, I'm going to look at this.
Yes, look it up.
Hauser INX Jazz.
Hauser
Liquid
INX
fountain
Jazz
pen.
Liquid Fountain Pen, which I used on this, but it being a fountain pen, I used on this sketchbook extensively. It was called Two Terrible Pages. I used it pretty much between just before the pandemic hit to sometime earlier in 2021. And I'll find, these are all with the same pen. There's bits of writing, not these are actually with the Rorito Fasti gel, which we'll talk about in a bit, which we have an episode of. But yeah, very good fountain pen, very good for drawing, very good for just lettering and getting to work. I've used, look at this entire book is pretty much only this pen. There's another pen here which we will talk about in the future episode, also a fountain pen, also very pretty. There's bits of random writing, just there were times in the last year where all I could do was just move a pen randomly on a page and hope for the best. And I should do a full walkthrough of this book at some point, but here's a quick one. This is the same, the Roreto Fasti, which we talked about in a previous episode. This one I think is a Natraj gel pen or a ball pen, but again we'll get to those cheap pens and good ways to use them. There's 36 days of type in here as well. Samir, you did 36 days of type using some kind of...
Yes, I used the Hauser as well for this set, which started with 36 days of type, and I still need to get to it. But yeah, all of this is inked in with the Hauser pen.
Is this directly with the Hauser without any pencil?
No, I think there are definitely pencils for these.
Okay.
These require a sketch to start with.
Yeah, but they're beautiful.
Like all of my 36 days of type or any of these monthly challenge things, that's as far as I got. But eventually,
I mean, these things take time. I neither...
As you can see, there are uninked ones.
I don't think any of us are very athletic minded people who are willing to do, doggedly just do something every day, come what may. We do put a priority on quality and frankly just mental mood most of the time. So if it takes some months between or even years between things, then we'll take that time.
And something I missed before, this is also a page done with the Pilot Parallel pen.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
So yeah, you can really get some very organic lines with it.
We should do that thing where you all actually do some lettering with the Pilot Parallel pen, and I'll maybe, try my handed illustration.
Right. I think now we're forming certainly a plan for a stationary Redux, test drive Redux. So we will keep that in mind for the next roundups. And then we thought we'd potted around in black and blue and a bit of red for a long time. So we did some color with the Staedtler Luna color pencils. Now, I have not used color pencils for years. So this is actually the only...
Same. I haven't touched them.
This is the only piece of color pencil artwork that I have at the moment. I think probably in years. Maybe, yeah. I don't remember the last time I picked up colors for physical media. I've done it on digitally because it just... the workflow is easier and you can change stuff around. But how was it going into color pencil? Something that is so in some ways almost considered juvenile. Or at least, when you're a young adult at most.
It was an interesting experiment. I was actually reading up on oil pastels for our last episode. And there was this interesting story about schools in Japan introducing oil pastels. And there were but oil pastels were a new invention and they were more expensive. So the schools that couldn't afford them actually went for color pencils because they were cheaper at the time. They were the instrument of choice that was recommended by German schools. And believe it or not, German schools liked color pencils because they were supposed to encourage discipline in the kids.
Okay.
So,
I mean, that is some pretty disciplined art. I don't want to talk about mine here, but maybe the Germans were onto something. The Germans usually are. They gave us pencils and many pens. So, but speaking of more color things, we're almost to more color things. But before that, we went back. We couldn't resist the Roreto Fasti gel pen, which we love, which we have done many things of.
I think Vishal and me can do an entire episode on the things that
we've done with this. Like, this is another sketchbook of mine. This is all, Roreto Fasti. We covered this in the episode as well. I have many more pages and pages of...
I have done this entire book of botanical illustrations, all using the Roreto Fasti. It goes on.
Yeah, this is a bit more botanical-esque thing. Again, Roreto Fasti. Actually, this one's the Unipen Fineliner.
And just to show variety, there's also these very comic illustrations, also with the Rorito Fasti.
And this is a page that I enjoyed making, sort of a comic.
Y'all really like the Rorito Fasti.
It's so easy to get going with it. I really can't.
I mean, the fact that you can keep this thing in your pocket and you can do both this and that.
Wow.
And that.
Why would I not like it?
Yeah, there is something to be said for a versatile tool, and that's one of the tenets of this show, that we're sourcing most of these from our stationery stores down the street in India, where we don't have access to the greatest and best imported stuff all the time. Most of these things are cheap. This Hauser is 50 rupees, which is like 75 cents, I think, US. This is 5 rupees, which is 7 cents, 8 cents. Even the imported stuff we're getting are the Unipins or the Tombos are maybe the most expensive thing we have here, and they're a couple of $100 or like $4 or $5 imported.
Yeah.
Maybe the parallel pen is more expensive than all of them.
Yes,
And you require... But yeah, you can do so much with so little, including things that you think of as just literally childhood things, like these oil pastels, which we just did a bunch of very different and again, same thing. You would not think that these are literally the same set of oil pastels, cheap ones. These are Camel by Camlin Kokuyo. A set of 25 is 100 rupees. That's like $1.5 US, maybe. That's pretty great that you can get this range of things from that. Again, we don't have any other work in this because most of the time we're working with.
Yeah, this is genuinely one of those things that none of us had used before.
Yeah,
to any extent.
I'd picked one set up. I don't know why, just on a whim, maybe just to try it out, maybe to even just give it to some kids we know or whatever. But I held on to it, and I'm glad I did, because it's just a good thing, whether you use it like a child and not, or you use it with mediums and washes and trying to get it all smooth together or somewhere in between. It's good. It's all. I think really, I know people might be looking for hard-hitting journalism and criticism from, but you're not going to get it from our stationery channel, because we're enthusiasts and lovers and not.
And we like to scribble.
And I really, if you can give us anything to scribble with. And on. We are going to do it. I think that's pretty much it for our first 12 episodes. These are all the things you can see. I would urge you to watch the episodes by going to our channel and clicking on the Stationery Test Drive playlist. Just watch all of them if you want. Watch some of them, pick a few now, watch some later. We are very much designed to be conversational and passive in some ways. Is passive viewing. I know that's a thing that people put out there. Watch us while you're doing your chores. Watch us
to relax.
And if you do relax by actually using some of these things, please find us online. We're at Inky Memo on most social media. Individually, I'm at All Vishal. Minjal?
I'm at Minjal Kadakia.
I'm at Samir Bharadwaj.
And we are Team Stationery Test Drive. This has been our first roundup of our first 12 entries. We can tell you now that there are going to be at least another 12 and another roundup after that. They release every week on YouTube, unless you're watching in the future with Smell-O-Vision and Feel-O-Vision, in which case, you're in my hands. High five. Samir, where are we finding you online?
At Samir Bharadwaj and at Paper Nautic for my paper art.
And get some stationery, get some wine, get some beer, get whatever you're drinking, relax, enjoy yourselves, make some art with all of this. We have catchphrases which we keep saying at the end of things, which keep changing and mutating, but cheers to you, cheers to everyone who's enjoyed stationery, who picks up stationery and continues to make things with it. We will continue to make things with it and make these videos for you.